Yeah. Well, thank you for the kind words, Michael, and it's always a pleasure to appear with you, and I'll let you get back to the guest I so rudely interrupted, and I hope you have a good program tonight.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and good night.
All right, good night. Well, gosh, Tina, did you happen to hear that report?
I sure did.
Man, as you know, Peter Davenport, running the National UFO Reporting Center, since, I think it's been 1994, I think he's been doing this and answering the phones and grabbing all of these reports from people all across the country, is a tireless effort, on his part, doing all this stuff for us. But it seems like things are really heating up here. But talk about heating up. We were just getting into some of the good, interesting subjects about your imposter replacement book initially, and then, of course, we're going to hone in on Paul McCartney. But I think you left off with Saddam Hussein and Kim Jong-il. Yeah.
Yeah, so a doctor who attended to Saddam Hussein said that he had lymph cancer and died in 1999. So whatever time frame after that they were showing Saddam Hussein was actually one of his 7 doubles. So it seems
my gosh.
Mm-hmm. I actually know the names of about 3 of them, and they're in my book, The Splitting Image. But so the government, the family, was just trotting out Saddam Hussein doubles as needed, which of course, throws a lot of questionable. Well, with the hanging and all of that, the show trial, it's pretty questionable what really happened there. And
so the idea being is that for instance, the Saddam Hussein that we saw tried and killed in captivity could be an imposter that they killed?
Right. So both Saddam Hussein's wife and girlfriend said that was not the real Saddam Hussein that they had in the prison. And then, of course, there was a lot of questionable stuff that happened at the trial and also at the hanging, the alleged hanging.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Right.
Did that really happen? Was it Hollywood? It was probably just a psyop. In my opinion, it was probably just a psyop. But which they use the whole imposter replacement process for psyops, obviously, around the world. Yeah, exactly. So Kim Jong-il, too, apparently died in 2002. This is according to a professor in Tokyo. He wrote a whole book about Kim Jong-il, and in his opinion, the North Korean government was parading around these 4 Kim Jong-il doubles, again, as needed. And they were also recycling pictures of the real Kim Jong-il and just making photo fabrications, pasting in his face into different scenarios. And it's like there's a picture of Kim Jong-il like in a winter jacket, and then there's like lush foliage in the background. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't really go.
Yeah.
And so that's also in my Splitting Image book. So, I mean, I'm bringing these scenarios up because it plays into what happened with Paul McCartney. Like, you need to have a larger context. You need to have more background information to see that it's not only possible, but it happened. I mean, I'm sorry to break it to people, but a good double should not be noticed. Like, we should not be talking on the radio about a good double. Like, that's kind of the point where people don't notice him.
Yes.
So the Paul McCartney double was noticed, It was huge news back in 1969, and he was even noticed before that.
Yeah.
Back in 1967, the Beatles Monthly magazine already issued a refutation that Paul had died.
Really?
So, the new McCartney says, all of this started with the Abbey Road cover when he was barefoot. BS! It started 2 years before that, I mean, it just became big news in 1969. And everybody was, like, on the mainstream media talking about it. But, people didn't necessarily know about imposter replacements back then. Although some people were talking that there was a double that took his place. But for most people, when Life magazine said, oh, no, Paul is still with us, that was enough for them. Never mind that it doesn't look like the same person or have the same songwriting chops or anything. They want to believe the fantasy. They want to believe the comforting lie. That's where we are. And some people can handle the truth and some can't.
Well, you're right. I mean, that's a major shock and would have been a huge shock back in those days if that news was widely publicized. But let's take a moment right now and see if you can, for us, reconstruct what your theory is about when he died, how he died, and all of that. Let's lay a foundation now of what your theory is.
Okay. Well, let me just say briefly that the forensic evidence proves that it's not the same Paul McCartney.
And tell us what that means, the forensic evidence.
We have not one, but two forensic scientists who did a biometrical analysis on Paul, the original Paul, before the replacement in say, mid to late 1966. And then the double, after late 66 and on, fall, as we call him, fake Paul. And actually, John Lennon called him faux Paul. But anyway, so we have these forensic scientists, Carlesi and Gavazzini, and they published their findings in August 2009 Wired Italia. Never was published in English, surprisingly, right? And now it's pretty much been suppressed, but I do have a copy of it on my blog.
Do you?
Yes, with a very bad machine translation in English because I don't speak Italian, but you can get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell us tell us how they can get to your blog first.
Okay, it's plasticmacca, MACCA, .blogspot.com. So Macca is what the English call McCartney, and so it's plastic Macca, plastic Mac, ha ha ha, little joke, right? I see right through your plastic Mac. Okay, anyway, so these forensic scientists, they actually set out to prove that the Paul is dead conspiracy theory was just a hoax. So they did all their little pictures together, Paul pre and post 66, or the replacement, and they're like, oh, lo and behold, it's not the same guy. Because you know what? You need one physical difference to prove that it's not the same person, and they found at least 6. I think they stopped at 6 because they're like, you know what? This is getting to be ridiculous. Okay, so what they found... I'm sorry.
Yeah. Tell us the details of how this difference is noticed and the forensics that they used to do it.
Right. So they did a biometrical analysis, which is, measuring the facial features and the length of the nose and the jawline and eyebrows, whatever. So they found that the skull shape was different. The nasal spine was different. The ear was different, the tragus in particular. The palate was different. The teeth were different. And did I say the nasal spine already? Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyways,
you did. Right.
Okay, so the skull shape on the original Paul was rounder, and on the new Paul, it was more elongated. Well, guess what? You can't change somebody's skull shape as an adult. And we are talking about a time frame from August, late August 66 to November, December 66. So 4 months at most. These physical changes, people want to say, oh, he's older. Oh, he took drugs. Like, they want to explain these physical differences away. Well, first of all, it's 4 months, and I don't know of any drug that will change your skull shape. Like, this is wishful thinking. People want it to be the same person. It's not. Okay, so skull shape.
So what you let me just stop right there and just clarify. So you're saying that the difference between the photographs that they were using for this biometric analysis, those photographs were only 4 months apart. Is that what you're saying?
Not all of the photographs. I'm saying that the switch took place. It's the photographs are showing the difference of 4 months. So some pictures were taken 4 months apart. So if you go to, for example, to the Memphis interview from August 19th, 1966, and you compare that to December 1966 when Fall made an appearance outside of the EMI studios, those are clearly different people, and that's only about 4 months apart.
Got it.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, some pictures they were looking at were earlier, some were later. They looked at pictures into the 90s, and, like, that's like a prosthetic ear that Fall is wearing. So not even, like, a real ear.
Whoa.
So, see what I'm saying? Like, they were looking at a broad range of pictures, but they grouped them into before the switch and after the switch. And you can tell they're two different people. Now, as far as multiple falls go, different doubles, I'm agnostic. I don't care how many falls there were. I know other doubles. I mean, like I said, Saddam Hussein had like 7 doubles. Stalin had like 4. Kim Jong-il had 4. Like, there could be multiple falls. I'm not saying there weren't.
Yeah.
But we know that they're not James Paul McCartney, the original Beatle.
James Paul McCartney. That was his full name, huh?
That was his full name. So you will see that a lot if you are researching Paul is Dead, because people want to differentiate the original Paul from the fake Paul. So they'll just say James Paul McCartney or JPM.
Yeah.
Versus, Fall or whatever.
Now let me ask you. Man, this is fascinating stuff, Tina Foster. But let's drill down deeper here, because are there more forensic evidence or other kinds of evidence other than biometrics that show this difference?
Yes. Okay. So there are also voice prints. Okay, but let me finish with the actual physical differences that prove it's not the same person. And you don't see the same person ever again after, I think it's the end of August 66. That's my opinion. You never see the same person. You never see Paul again. That's not to say that there aren't photographs that have been tampered with to make it look more like Paul. And that happened from the very beginning, and that's something that the forensic scientists also picked up on, because they're also trained to see photo tampering. But, okay, so the jawline, they said on Paul, had 2 curves, and then and after it was 1 curve, and the difference was 6%, which was beyond the margin of error. So that's definitely a different person just from the jawline, too. So you got 2 things right there. Then the nasal spine was also different. And they suspected that the mustache that Fall started wearing, late 66, was meant to disguise that difference. It was hiding it. Yeah, so mustache and facial hair, long hair, all of that can be a distractor which draws attention to itself.